probably nice to have a field trip just before Thanksgiving. Probably a really good idea, isn't it? So my talk is on jazz composition. I'm not sure how many of you actually want to be jazz composers. So with that in mind, feel free to ask questions that go beyond what the title of my topic is. Fair enough? Because you're all studying music, right? You all probably have questions about music or things you want to know about or things that you'd like to do better. And so I'd like to make sure that I'm not just talking about something that interests me. How many of you have ever composed anything? Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk about what it takes to compose. Where do you start? Inspiration. I always say that every piece of music has a past, a present, and a future. The past is what the composer was feeling so strongly that she or he just had to write something, right? And the present is the thing that's created, and the future is the way the audience feels about it. So it always starts with inspiration. So I was just playing a little piece by the great Horace Silver, who was a wonderful jazz composer. Anybody ever heard of Horace Silver?
Song for my father.
Yeah, he wrote Song for My Father, right? Any of you ever heard that song? That's not the one I was playing. Check this out. This is a song that's only 10 bars long. 10 bars long. That's the whole song. Isn't that gorgeous? Amazing. Anybody? If you know the name of it, don't say it right now. If you don't know the name of it, what is it? What do you think the inspiration might have been for that song? How does it make you feel when you hear it? Past, present, future. The future is the impact it has on you. How does it make you feel when you hear it? What did you just say? The name of the song is Peace. And you said it makes you feel peaceful. Does that give you goosebumps? I got them right under this coat. The name of the song is Peace. How about that? So why do you think Horace Silver wrote it? Bring peace to anybody who hears it. Longing and hoping for peace, and hoping to give peace, because the world can often be a place that doesn't give you a lot of peace, right? So, okay. So inspiration. What else do you need aside from inspiration? Yeah. Some knowledge. I always say that we have two wells as musicians. We have a spiritual well and we have a technical well. The spiritual well starts getting filled, the day we're born. It's everything it's all of our emotions. It's all of the sorrows, the joys, the hopes, the fears, the love, and all that stuff. The technical well is filled with all the stuff you learned how to do. So what's in your technical well right now as musicians? What stuff do you know how to do? Yeah.
You memorize the notes.
Okay? You memorize notes, so you must be able to read notes. Right? Okay? So reading music's in your technical well. Did you practice scales? Scales are in your technical well. Arpeggios are in your technical well. You may find that there's other things in there that you don't even know about that you have to identify. Now, here's the thing, my friends. Every note against a harmony, every note against a harmony, and every kind of rhythm implies certain things in music. Right? how many of you have heard of the thing called an appoggiatura? Right, an appoggiatura is one note above the note in the chord, right? Right? Appoggiaturas add emotion. You know, I often say if you want to write a melody called I Love You, you got to put appoggiaturas in it. You can't just give the chord tones. I love you, yes I love you, I love you, I love you. But what if you add an appoggiatura to each one of those? I love you, yes I love you, I love you. Right? That's a really bad song, but you get the idea, right? Do you see how the appoggiatura, I always say there could never have been a Barry Manilow without appoggiatura. Do you see the difference though that it made just adding those notes? Right? The note one above the chord tone adds emotion, or one below the chord tone. So that's a little thing to know. Every note against the chord. So what's a major chord? 1, 3, 5 of a major scale. That's pretty easy, right? Every note of the scale and of the chord has a feeling. One is sort of declamatory. Let me do a chord I can sing. I'm done. 1, right? 5 is non-committal, because 5 could be minor, 5 could be major. We don't know what 5 is. It's non-committal. 3 is the happy note in the major chord, because if it was not 3, it would be minor, and that would not be as happy. Everybody agree? So every note's got something. You know, 7 is very jazzy and cool. 9 is also very jazzy and cool. So is 6. And then we have the note we call napalm. That's the 4th. 4 destroys the chord. But 4 can be an appoggiatura. I love you. There it is again, right? It has to resolve to 3. So every note has a feeling. Different chords and keys have feelings. How many of you have heard Take the A Train? Some of you? Okay. It's a famous jazz song by Duke Ellington. The second chord is, so it starts on the chord of the key. So if we're in C, it starts in C. And that's just a melody. But if the chord is 1, 3, 5, he did 5, 3, 5, 1, almost like a bugle call. Did you hear that? Duke Ellington picked a note that's almost like a bugle call. But check out the second chord. Hear how full that chord is? That's 2 dominant with a sharp 11. And that sharp 11 is very dreamy and wondrous and excited. So why did he do the bugle call? Because the song's called Take the A Train. And you used to take the A train, you still do, to get from Midtown up to Harlem. And what was up in Harlem when Duke Ellington was writing? The music. So it was a bugle call to get on that A train. You can take the A train. The A train was the cool thing. That's why he used the 2 dominant with the sharp 11. To get to Sugar Hill way up in Harlem. And then he used a very jazzy melody because he's going to hear the jazz. Right? But check out this melody. All those notes before the chord tone, all those notes before the chord tone, and that makes it sound very jazzy, right? You with me? So, as you study composition, you study what all the chords are and what they do, and then there's all the notes against the chords and what the feelings that they create, and then there's all the rhythms that you can put the notes in, and if you equate all of those things with the feelings they create, then they're sitting there in your technical well, right? They're all there, they're ready to be used, they're your ammo, and your spiritual well is inspired, and it should unconsciously draw from the technical well, right? So you have to learn about them both. Now, for instance, the Great American Songbook, I don't want to talk too long because I want to give you time for questions. The Great American Songbook, when all these songs were written from the 1920s to the 1960s, everything by Duke Ellington and Irving Berlin and Jimmy Van Heusen and all those composers. All those songs, all those standard songs, only had about 12 or 13 harmonic idioms in all of them. 100%, or nearly 100%, of all the songs end with the progression 2-5-1. How many of you have heard of that progression? Yeah, every jazz song ends with 2-5-1, which is this. You've heard this. Right? By the way, just about every classical song ends 5-1-2. Sound familiar? And just about every pop song ends with some version of 5/1. Just about every song ever ends with 5/1. So that's like 100%. So like, if you're going to build a house, you probably should have a foundation or your house is wall, right? So all songs have it. But 75% of jazz standards have 2/5 to the 4 chord. If you're in the key of C, what's 4? F. What's the key signature of C? No sharps and no flats, right? What's the key signature of F? You've added a flat. You've made it warmer, right? As you go to flat side, you go warmer or darker. So when a song's in the key of C and it goes to F, it goes to the 4 chord, so we're in this key. Now I add a flat. I go to another major chord, but it's a little bit warmer, right? So I know that as a composer. Now about 60% of jazz songs have that 2 dominant that I played for you, that kind of wondrous, happy, adventurous chord, right? How many have heard the Girl from Ipanema? Huh, it's the 2nd chord of that too. She's tall and tan and young and lovely, right? Who is she? Oh, she's the Girl from Ipanema, so I'll use that 2 dominant because she's pretty wonderful, right? That's what composers do. Now, if we're in the key of C, what would be 6? A. The 6th chord in the key, in any major key, is minor. So what's that going to do if you go to the 6th chord? It's going to take a song that's relatively happy and do what? Make it more sad, right? Make it more melancholy. So 2/5 to the 6th chord happens in a lot of songs. You think everything's fine, everything's going okay. I had this great girl. She loved me. And then it all went terribly wrong. But she was so wonderful. There's my 2 dominant. When she loved me, I had this girl. She was mine. And then one day, she left me. Why did she leave me when she was so wonderful? There's 2 dominant. She was my girl. And then I'll go to the 4 chord. Remember that warmer, happier time. You see me using those chords and those notes to create something? I just wrote that song. I'm going to make so much money. So, the cool thing about this music is that there's a relatively little bit of material that you need sometimes in your technical well, and yet when you put it together with inspiration from your spiritual well, we can over and over again compose new pieces of music that express something. And that's the wonder of what we do. It's just the wonder of it. Back in the 90s, before you were born, when were you born? Back in the 90s, before you were born, I gave some piano lessons to a rock star whose name I won't tell you, but he was really famous in those days. You haven't heard of him maybe, but you probably heard of his songs. And he didn't have as deep a technical well as mine, right? He was kind of self-taught. He played the piano, he played the guitar, and he had like 20 top 20 hits. You know, I have, how many top 20 hits do I have? How many top 100 hits do I have?
Wow.
No, pretty sad. But I have 5 Grammy nominations. How many Grammy Awards have I won? I'm a loser. But I was giving, he wanted to take piano lessons from me. I used to write orchestrations for him. So sometimes he'd tour with a symphony, or he'd do an album, and I'd write the orchestra, the string parts and stuff for his album, some of his hits. My brush with fame is writing for other people's hits. But I gave him about 2 piano lessons, and so he took the piano lessons because he wanted to learn more stuff, right? I knew more chords and more things than him, and he wanted to learn more stuff. And after 2 lessons, I said, I don't think I should teach you anymore, because his technical well had everything in it that he needed. And when he wrote songs out of his technical well, everybody in the world got the song. And I would hate to think of him someday going, oh, it would be hipper to do this. And then then suddenly 2/3 of the world doesn't like his song anymore. So I stopped giving him lessons. Which is a really good idea. So, anyway, that's sort of an overview. Now, what else do you have to consider when you compose music? We talked about you have to have inspiration. You have to have knowledge. Yes?
Something that's appealing to the audience.
Something that's appealing to somebody. You know, who are you writing for? Right? That matters. Songs also have form, right? Do you know the forms of any of the jazz songs? Can I name a form of a jazz song? All right, well, let's check this out. Let's do Take the A Train, the song I was doing. Okay? You ready? Let me know when the form starts to repeat itself. Ah! Do the same thing again? So if the first phrase is called A, what's the second phrase called? A. That's another A. Then what happens? B. We call that the bridge. What's that? So what's the form of that song? A-A-B-A. That's a typical one of the most typical song forms for jazz composition. So learning what the forms are. So one of the things you can do if you're really interested in composing, take a song that you love, figure out what the chords are, what the melody is to the chords, what the form is, how certain words are used for certain melody notes, and then try to write your own song based on that. Use it as a model. I only have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to stop now and ask if anybody has any questions. Yes?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say I enjoyed the Jazz Roots Leonard Bernstein. We were out there for that concert.
Cool.
We had a great
Wasn't
time.
that a fantastic concert? All those guest artists. And our students from the Frost School, a lot of that music they got the day before. They'd never seen it before. They had to play it the next day. And it was really hard. So, but I love all those guys. Kirk Whalen, who played sax that night, we go back to like 1979 in Houston, Texas together. So we've known each other for a long time. Since your parents were. Question? Yes?
How far should we go into the technical side before we start using the spiritual side?
How far should we go onto the technical side before we start using the spiritual side? Start using the spiritual side immediately. Because, you know, there are all these rules, right? There's all the technique and stuff. But you know what? If it sounds good to you, it doesn't matter what the rule is. There are composers that never studied anything. They just listened a lot and they just composed without knowing what anything was, right? So I say immediately start using the spiritual side, because it doesn't matter how full your technical well is. If you're not playing music and composing music from the spiritual side, you don't have much, right? So I would say it's never too soon. I wrote my first song when I was like 9. It was called Mama. Picked up the guitar and learned a chord, like A minor. Mama, you know. It wasn't a hit either. But my mother liked it. Any other questions? Yeah.
Where do you get your inspiration for the music you create?
Where do I get my inspiration? Sometimes I get it by the deadline. It has to be by tomorrow. I'm suddenly inspired. But you know, that's interesting. Because when I met my wife, I didn't know she was going to be my wife. But when I met her, I sat down at the piano and in 10 minutes wrote the song called Julia, her name's Julia. And I was so inspired that I wasn't thinking spiritual, technical, or anything. It's just that song fell out of me, right? So the more something inspires you, the more opportunity you have to write something with the least effort, right? So that didn't take any time at all. Although I was playing that song with my trio one time, and I told the story of writing it at a concert, and my drummer was in the back, and he yelled, "It used to be called Betty." So I get my inspiration from real things that happen to me. Yeah.
How do you go about the publishing process?
So, as soon as you write a song, if you record it, and there's a timestamp that you recorded it, it's actually protected. You should obviously copyright it and do all that, which is not hard to do, But you're actually protected as soon as you've recorded a song or written down in some way, and there's some kind of timestamp for anything that you create that says, okay, this was created on such and such day. It's protected. And then publishing is another matter, right? Because you can start your own publishing company, a lot of people do. I have one. Anybody's trying to publish your music, it's a really good idea to get some legal advice. This business is full of people who, got taken for a ride. So it's very easy to say when somebody says, I want to publish you and I want to take 70% of your royalties, and you can say, well, I don't want 30% of nothing, I don't want 100% of nothing, I'll sign my royalties away. And actually, nobody that's ever done that and the song was successful ever thought that was a good decision. Right? So, but as soon as you record something or write it in your computer and there's a date on it, it's actually protected. You don't have to worry about somebody stealing it because you've got a timestamp of when you created that piece of music. Good question.
All right, it's time to move on to the next workshop. Let's hear it.